The Sharks fall to the Dallas Stars 5-4. Joe Pavelski with the dagger in the third period, holding it up on the boards. The Sharks just unable to get a puck on net in the dying seconds, and that's how it would go down in the books. All that and more after this. But first, if you want to be a part of the show and interact with us, check us out across all of the social media platforms, that being Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, the YouTube chat, SoundCloud. You also got us on the Reddit, and of course all the shenanigans that go down in the Discord. Find all of that and more at tealtownusa.com. Well, while we are waiting for Puck Guy to get home, he's currently on the road somewhere. I'm pretty sure he's either on 680 or 880, but we'll see. I will be going ahead and breaking this down for you, and we'll go through this game and see what we can take out of it, because quite frankly, again, if you hadn't been joining us prior to tonight's show, well, welcome. But as I had said before, really setting our expectations now, looking into the silver linings and to the future of the Sharks organization. So with that being said, let us start with the breakdown. The Sharks would come out firing with guns a-blazing. Nick Bonino with his 9th of the season, and we had talked about this guy being a slow starter, and now with 9 goals, he's starting to kind of bounce back just a little. Now, of course, it's still off of what we expected at the beginning of the season, but I think we've all kind of come to the realization that Nick Bonino at this point is miscast as a third-line center and should be the team's fourth-line center. That being said, Nick Bonino with a great second effort. It was a bring in from Noah Gregor, very aggressive on the boards, getting that puck out to Erik Karlsson, with Erik Karlsson shooting it on net. Nick Bonino there crashing to get the goal. And you thought, okay, you know what? Sharks coming out and really singing it to the Stars. You like the jump in that very first 2 minutes of the period. However, Vlad Namestnikov would come back not even 25 seconds later, so 1:50. So let's just say the first 1:30 was good by the Sharks. Tyler Seguin would get the assist there on Namestnikov's 14th goal. That would make it 1-1. And then you thought, oh boy, this could be a barn burner, especially at the beginning of the first period, getting those back-to-back goals so quickly. Yanni Hakanpää coming in at 8 minutes 11 seconds of that first period, getting his third on the season. Tyler Seguin again and Vlad Namestnikov hooking up for the assists on that goal by Yanni Hakanpää. Then you thought, oh boy, the Avalanche is starting to, no pun intended from last game, is starting to roll down on these Sharks. And you'd have Roope Hintz scoring 1:43 later, his 30th on the season. Joe Pavelski and John Klingberg with the assists on that one. And then you had the backbreaker. And then this one, to me, was when the game was lost. Even though the Sharks did put up a valiant effort in that third period, that fourth goal was the backbreaker. It was the inexcusable play in front of the net. And you know what? Full marks for Jason Robertson, his 32nd on the year, with Tyler Seguin and Denis Gurianov with the assists. Whew. Okay, well, how can we break this one down? This one comes with approximately 0.3 seconds left on the clock. Rick Bowness had pulled the goaltender, so they had 6 attackers on the ice. And it was just a bull rush play. You got the face-off win back. It was actually tied up a little for a few seconds. It wasn't a clean face-off win, but then they pulled it back to the defenseman. Defenseman puts it on net. It's goes wide, and you get the rebound, and then Robertson's just right there, parked out in front. Nobody's there to clear him in front of the net, and Kaapo Kähkönen is hung out to dry. And we look at the first 4 goals, and to me, the Vlad Namestnikov was a breakdown. The Jason Robertson was a breakdown. The goal that I felt Kaapo Kähkönen should have had probably should have been the Jani Hakanpää, only because that one was the one that came out, from the point. It was a side-to-side movement on that blue line when you did get that goal scored, and it was Kaapo Kähkönen had already committed to one side of the net. Now Kaapo, I thought, was a little forward of the blue ice and a little far out into his net and committed very quickly to that play. So if you want to fault Kaapo there, I would understand why. I think some of the decision-making in and around was a little squirrely tonight. But the other 3 goals were just self-inflicted wounds. And I had not seen Drew Remenda that animated breaking down an intermission since his second stint, the stint where, we saw him really start to voice his displeasure with the Sharks' defensive alignments and systems, and was one of the criticisms that some of the fan base had in that second stint that he had was just that it was very, very emotional, and it was also not the same type of teaching moments that Drew would use. And luckily, I think Drew did a really good job after those first initial comments of, look, it was inexcusable, unacceptable. He was frustrated. I mean, Brody was frustrated. It sounded like the announcers, both Randy and Hetty, were frustrated with that goal in the dying milliseconds of the period. And quite frankly, I see exactly what they're saying there. And the Sharks had just literally took their foot off the accelerator pedal. I don't know if they thought maybe the guy was going to tie up on the face-off circle a little bit longer than it did. However, their miscue was Dallas's opportunity, and Dallas took advantage of it. And again, seeing Drew that animated, this is the first time that we've seen a team like this have I think all season, to me, one of the most major gaffes at the end of a period. Now, we had seen a little bit of the team giving up goals at the end of periods, but I don't think we've seen anything like this. And unfortunately, it was total defensive breakdown. Okay, so Ricky, thank you for chiming in there, and we're gonna try and roll in some of these comments a little bit quicker due to the solo cast here. But Ricky is saying I disagree on the Robertson goal. Cock was pushed up really far, and that's why he could bounce it in off of him. And again, I think that kind of goes into, I talked about the Hakanpää goal where Kaapo seemed like he was a little bit over aggressive, and we could argue that most of that first period he was trying to play aggressive. Now, whether or not he's trying to keep the team in and trying to make more saves because of a defensive, sets of miscues, who knows? But he faced 14 shots in that opening period and saved 10 of them. I mean, it's a .714 save percentage. Again, I put major blame on one of those goals, but I think you could also make an argument as well in that last goal that he was kind of over committing. And Bosaurus, you're right. I love gotta have those chime-ins from Hetty, right? We've also got Hot Wheels 84 saying the fourth goal with 2 seconds left is unacceptable. Hot Wheels, I hate to break it to you, but it was even worse than that. It had 0.3 seconds left. Whew. And then THC, thank you so much there. He's got, that had to be scripted. Joe Pavelski with the game winner. Joe Pavelski eating the puck in the corner in the dying seconds. It looked like Joe came to play against his team, and he normally does. To me, I think this is still a player, maybe the mirror of Karlsson, insofar as looking at a team that he was playing with, from all accounts, loved the area, loved, being a San Jose Shark, not to be offered, or in Karlsson's case to be traded away, but going to a different team, and you still kind of have that, maybe he has some of those grass is greener on the other side thoughts. Not, of course, right now because of the way in which the Sharks are playing and where they're at in their positioning, but, there could be some nostalgia there. Oh boy. And Ricky, this is a nice little chime on to THE and to everybody else, or Bozosaurus, excuse me. What does he say more? You're right, or I agree? Well, I think if you watch the Pucknologist this coming weekend, you'll be tuning into a new little drinking game that AJ wants to be playing. AJ, I don't know if you're gonna announce the rules of this game, but it's fun, and just from everything I've been reading in the DMs, it'll get you fucked up real quick. Thank you for that, Ricky, and excuse my language there, but just had to go out and just try to describe it a little bit more than getting screwed up, that's for sure. In that second period, Brent Burns would give the Sharks a little bit of life, giving the Sharks a 2-4, still on the disadvantage, but climbing back in. Jacob Magna and Sasha Chmelevski there on the assists, with Brent Burns' 9th goal of the season. Brent Burns really being the offensive backbone of the defense. Again, we were hoping and wanting to see both Burns and Karlsson ascend to this balanced kind of offensive attack where you could roll out an offensive defenseman upon each of the pairings, but unfortunately they're just not really panning out. And Brent Burns, again, just showing that he can still bring the goods offensively. Hot Wheels, I mean, look, we were talking about Brent Burns, and we know who his favorite target was, and who would set Burnsy up a lot as well. And Sharks could sure use Joe's 68 points. And it's just interesting because Joe Pavelski now is in the second contract with Dallas after the 3 years that he signed. He signed a 1-year extension. And Evander Kane is now not on the team and signed a larger extension. Just kind of goes to show you the net minus that equation had between those two players, and subtracting one for the other. And again, we've talked about it ad nauseum, but I will go to my Sharks fandom grave saying that Joe Pavelski was the cap casualty not of Erik Karlsson, but of Evander Kane. And again, it's just real miscuing. And of course, hindsight is 50-50. But when you've got a guy who's a heart and soul guy, it's never a bad thing to pay that player. And again, we can talk about it and cover it until the cows come home, and it's not going to change anything. But that was the miscue, and I think that you could say that one move set the franchise back. Of course, the franchise needed to be reset anyways, and that was coming, whether or not Evander was going to stay or any of the other players coming and going and trying to build around an EK65 led team. But, again, you just look at one player versus the other. Ryan Baker pulling it up. San Jose is paying the price for not signing Pavelski. They're getting punished for it. And that's the way that I see it. As AJ likes to say, you're not wrong. In that third period, of course, we've teased it out quite a bit. Joe Pavelski with his 25th goal of the year. Jason Robertson and Rupe Hintz. I mean, that number one line for Dallas. First, it comes out of nowhere. I mean, yes, Hintz and Robertson were good prospects, but playing with a guy like Joe Pavelski, those three have just started to lock in, and you've got two young wingers with Pavs, and it's great to see that those two have rejuvenated him. He looks like he's having fun again, and from all of us over here, I mean, we'd love to see a number 16 get the big shiny thing. That's for sure. John Leonard would really start to make it interesting, though. His first of the season, Erik Karlsson and Mario Ferraro hooking up on the assist there for Johnny Leonard's first goal. And honestly, in the last 3 games had been the best that I'd seen John Leonard play this season. Really, I think starting to understand what he needs to do to be a pro, what he needs to do to be a effective NHLer day in and day out, and that is use his speed, use his shots, and use a little bit of that tenacity and grittiness that he has in the boards. Look, I'm not asking him to be, Tomas Hertl. I'm not asking him to be, a Barclay Goodrow bull, that's able to keep that puck possession, just being a bigger player of stature. I'm not asking him to be that. But what I am asking him to do is to utilize his tools that he has, which is a deceptive shot and his skating and that feistiness in and around the net. And to me, that's what he's got to do to continue to be a professional in this league. It's good to see him be rewarded with some really hard net play, and that's what we saw in that goal. And again, it came 15-21 in that third period, so it does give the Sharks a little bit of life. Logan Couture would come in and give the Sharks even more of a teaser with his 22nd of the year. Sasha Chmelevski and Noah Gregor with the assists. I thought Sasha Chmelevski was one of the better forwards tonight. Driving play, they moved him in and out different spots. He ended up playing most of his time with Logan tonight on his wing, but I thought that those two were playing very well together. I liked Noah Gregor's game, and I think that's why we saw him elevated in that third period. Jonathan Dahlen, to me, still looking like a guy needing to figure out his, footing. Needs to figure out how to be a little bit stronger on the puck. He seems streaky, and of course the confidence, ebbs and flows with him. So he's going to be a guy that I'm going to, really look to build next season and really look to be a guy that is going to be counted upon for a lot of offense. And again, a player that we're now projecting to be more of a top 6. Well, he's got to be a top 6 player with the skills that he brings and the deficiencies that he has, right? I don't think he would thrive on a third or fourth line type of role, because to me he's more of a finesse skill type player. But again, this is a guy that's going to need to look at the this is a guy that needs to look at the footage of this season, look and take away the good attributes that he was having at the beginning of the season and bring that into next season. AJ, thank you so much for manning the chat as always. Boogie didn't like 2 of the 4 goals allowed by Kakkonen tonight, and again, I think had we kind of looked at it, I think if we look at the first period in a chasm within itself, or the game within the game, this was a guy to me looking like he was playing aggressive in order to cover up for deficiencies in his defense. Tonight, it was a guy that looked over-aggressive because he was trying to make sure that nothing was getting in, and maybe sensing that the team in front of him just didn't have it together defensively tonight. Didn't have it together defensively in that first period. And I think that's really what buried the Sharks. But again, 2 out of 4. Yeah, I think you could make a strong argument for that. Did Reedy end up coming back in Hot Wheels 84? Yes, he did. He did take shifts in that third period. Ricky asking, it's sad that neither Reedy or Chmelevski. Okay, I think we might be back. Boy, I mean, we're just talking about having these same old technical issues. Of course, it wouldn't be a Teal Town podcast without technical issues, that's for sure. But I guess now we're back. So we were talking about where the team was at, and where the state of the franchise is with regards to the kids. And again, Sasha Chmelevski and Scott Reedy being under 40% tonight, it's bad. But again, at least they're starting from 40%. It's not like, they're completely inept back there. I'll have to take a look and on the breakdowns for just how they did across the different just across the different periods. So we'll go through quickly now the shots on goal. It was 29-28 in favor of Dallas. Of course, James Reimer would come in that second period in relief. He would give up the one goal and really give the Sharks a chance to hang on. You got some great contributions from John Leonard, like I had said before, Logan Couture getting on the board, Nick Bonino getting on the board, and Erik Karlsson with 2 assists. He was a blank in the plus-minus. Jason Mega was a +1. Tonight, the ice time breakdowns on the defenseman, Mario Ferraro clocking in at 21:54, almost 22 minutes worth of ice time. Jason Megna with 19 minutes, Mark-Edouard Vlasic with 15 minutes, Nicholas Milosh with 16 minutes, Erik Karlsson 24:39, Brent Burns 23:14, and now, ladies and gentlemen, we are starting to see Erik Karlsson get some more ice time over Brent Burns, and I think that's kind of the way that it should be. So, yeah, PJ, thank you so much for chiming in. Put them on the wings and spend for a fourth line center, problem solved. Well, I think that was kind of the idea behind Nick Bonino, right? I think Nick Bonino was the guy that you were trying to tap. At least I think the Sharks originally thought he was going to be the third line center. But like I had been saying before, my expectations was, especially with where he's at in his age, is more of a fourth line center. And so that is a misread, I think, a little bit, or a miscast from the front office. PJ saying, how many beer cans did Reimer crush on his head? Oh boy, I'm not really sure on that one, but he must have crushed a lot because he was crushing it in the nets, that's for sure. Let's see. Well, that being said, I mean, that's pretty much the game in the nutshell. The Sharks would fall again 4-5 against the Dallas Stars. And for me, I would have loved to have seen a little bit more of a flurry of shots in that last minute. You had that puck bounce across Brent Burns' stick. It was on the yellow dasher. And you just couldn't keep it in. And that, bringing it back in with a weak play and allowing the Dallas Stars to pin that puck on the boards, that ended it. And that was the killer. And that's what a good team with some will and good leadership can do, is just snuff out any attempt to come back and really put the screws on the Sharks defensively when it really counted. Now, I think you'll see some score effects there, especially at play in the third period. And I think that's why the Sharks were able to manufacture some goals, because they did tilt the ice just a little bit, in that last dying 10 minutes. But it was good to see the fight back. Wasn't good to see the miscue and the misexecution on the end of that play. PJ, thank you so much for chiming in with another question. Eric, what do you think about the Hakanpää stick lift on Hurdle to draw the 4-minute power play? Oh boy. When I think about that one, yeah, you think about the player that's lifting his stick and moving the trajectory of his stick upward, but you've also got to be strong on it too. And you can't just let your stick just get lifted or get ridden up like that, because if Hurdle is a little bit stronger on his stick there and is able to prevent and hold down that stick lift, and keep his stick high enough to where the official can see it. If you have the player coming and doing that again, that's a hook. And maybe the call goes the other way if Hertl is a little bit stronger on that stick. But I think the letter of the law states that you have to have full control over your stick, with the exception being a follow through, being hit on the follow through. Ricky chiming in again, as a ref said it to me in Pee Wee's, it's still your stick and it still can't hit him in the face. Exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just, having control of your stick, right? And that's the name of the game. And unfortunately, Hertl just wasn't able to keep the muscle on that one. And that's kind of what happened there. And you had the 4-minute power play. So that is kind of how I look at that one. It's still on, the onus is on the player with the stick that is going into the face of the other player, regardless of where that comes up and how that comes up. We were talking a little bit about the wingers, and PJ also bringing it up, and I promise I'm not just picking PJ out of here, but he's got some great points for us to talk about. Putting some guys on the wing and spending for that fourth line center. Felix, though, coming in with, do you think the Sharks will ever have a set tandem in net again anytime soon? And for me, I think, again, the play is going to be Kaapo Kähkönen. I think you spend the capital that you did to get him, and he's going to be a guy that you're going to look for towards the future. And I say you roll with Adin Hill. And I say you take the two younger guys. Of course, Reimer is going to have one more year left on his contract, but a 36-year-old, 37-year-old James Reimer, how much more can you ask of him? You know what I mean? And how much more can he sustain the type of play that he's got now? I don't know. It could be another one of those Pavelskian-esque deals where it's like, okay, you're going to pick one of the you're going to pick the guy that you think has a better shot of having the extended career, but at the cost of somebody who's playing high-level hockey right now. It'll be an interesting move. It'll be interesting to see how they address that in the offseason. I don't think you can go into the season with 3 potential 1A, 1B type starters. Either of those goaltenders, one of the 3 has got to be a 1A. The other 2, are bona fide goaltenders. Whether or not they're going to be full-time, workhorse type guys, or they're going to be a 1B, 1A type of set configuration. That's going to be what's the Sharks are going to need to find out with what they have in Kaapo Kähkönen. Adin Hill, there's not enough sample size. I mean, there's not enough sample size for both of them, to be quite honest, for me to be comfortable anointing a first-line goaltender. But at this point, I think you look at the pedigree, and I think you look at keeping Adin Hill, and you keep Kaapo Kähkönen, and you give the benefit of the doubt to Kähkönen. Okay, let's see if we can route Puck Guy in here. Let's pull in this 2-shot, and let's see if we can get Puck Guy. There he is. Puck Guy, how are you doing this evening?
Hey, bud.
Uh-oh.
Good, bud.
We can't hear Puck Guy.
Of course not. Come on now.
Still can't hear the Puck Guy. Uh-oh. Let's see here.
Let me make sure I'll check all my stuff, because it's usually my fault when that happens. Okay. So
there we go.
We'll see.
Now we're back in.
You're back in. All right. Make sure. Hey, I'll talk for a sec. You get the 2 panels set up. Make it look all nice and pretty.
Oh, we already are. We're already
okay.
good in there. We're rocking and rolling.
All right. I think that's the fastest I ever drove from. Well, actually, it was Amanda. It's two that's drove from San Jose to Concord. So
Well, ad hoc, that's for sure. And, we're making it interesting here at the end, kind of like the Sharks, right?
absolutely, made it interesting at the end. Horrible, horrible. You know, last 18:35 of the first period. Uh, Bonino getting things going. That was nice. And then just to, fall apart. But we've always talked about they need to play a complete 60 minutes, right? And that fourth goal just showed how they weren't ready.
They didn't
And
even play a complete 20 minutes. I mean,
yeah,
right?
and that's the problem is that you can't show up a minute in, and you can't show up like the last 10 minutes into a third period. So, it's one of those things where it's frustrating to see. Um, and of course the Pavelski goal sets everybody off on everything. Um, you can only do so much, but nice to have a nice crowd out there tonight. I think it was about 14,000. Good crowd. It was the first game with no COVID restrictions in the
Oh, wow.
building. So, and it was a pretty long line. It almost went to the other end of the arena. So I can only imagine what the front end looked like. I mean, a nice crowd, good crowd. They wanted to see some hockey. It got interesting. I guess to get through that game, you get tacos out of it, so that's always a good thing. But
Yes, at least we get tacos, right? Puck
but I
guy, I
got
mean, but
yeah. Go ahead.
besides, yeah, no, I mean, just besides kind of like the overall ambiance, with what the presentation was like tonight, sounds like that we had a good bounce back crowd, so that's awesome. Um, to you, I mean, I'm not looking at this season any more than as an incubator for the next season. And as far as that goes, what'd you see from the young kids that were working tonight? Where do you think some of the mistakes were coming from? Whether or not was that more of a style of play thing, or were those young mental mistakes? Just kind of give me a forecast on what you thought of the kids tonight.
On the kids, and I'll throw this and whip this in with Timo. And you remember how they said that Hurdle and Timo feel like they need to play their strongest because they're the one that are dependent on. I saw a little bit of Timo trying to be a hero a little too much tonight. Um, I also saw them trying to get into the dump and chase a lot. And Dallas was beating them with speed and getting to the puck first. Nothing was happening there, But what did I see? I saw John Leonard, with a nice goal there. I think he went into the corners a little hard to try to make things happen. I think they're realizing that they can't pull up with Bull Kapuki anymore. You know, yeah, you can win with the skill, but you need to have a 200-foot game. Um, and I think they're all realizing that they could be as talented as ever, and I hope that talent gets to be shown and flourished, like a certain Anaheim Duck that was getting called out by a goon in his heyday that wears, plaid sportswear to make himself try to look like he's the marketing guy. Um, but you hope that they can get their 200-foot game going with their speed and their moves. I thought, Shimolevsky, which I was like, oh, so close to getting his first NHL goal. Would have been a nice one. But you see the effort. You see them trying to do things. I still don't understand why Ryan Merkley was scratched tonight. Like, I mean, Vlasic was giving him kudos about how he's made him young again, made him an offensive threat. I thought, he was giving him all kinds of love and everything. And you go out and you put Milosh instead of Merkley in. I'm not sure about that. I don't know why Magna was with Burns, especially with Mario Ferraro back. And you know, names count. Oh, I'll give names. Frickin' Tyson Nash on the Arizona broadcast was giving kudos to Jay Beagle, who hasn't done shit since he left the Capitals. You know, he played up in Vancouver for a little bit and then gets traded as part of the OEL deal. Right. And he's like, yeah, if these guys are going to, try to fancy the league, they got to be watching out. Shut the hell up. I'm sorry, but you know what? Keep your mouth shut, Tyson. You didn't do shit when you were with St. Louis. All you were was like a little instigator, a shit disturber. Oh, what's shocking. You're a shit disturber again. Like, give me a break. These kids are becoming with a more talented skill set than we've seen in a long time. Maybe, with the exception of 99, Gordy, Sid, hell, I mean, you could put Connor McDavid in there as well.
McDavid and Nathan McKinnon. I mean, to me, Nathan Mack got to be up there too.
So these kids are going to be learning things. You feel for Riddy, who got hurt a little bit there.
But he did come back. But he came back. He came back and gutted it out. Somebody else brought up Ferraro gutting it out in that third period, limping kind of at the end of the third. Bob, I think, coming out and saying that Mario got better as the game went on, not back to 100% speed yet. Mario's always going to give everything he has and battled hard. But the question that I have for you is, WTF? You got a Ryan Merkley who's arguably elevating his partner, and you're playing a not half, but maybe a 80%, 85% Mario Ferraro. I mean, let the kid rest and recoup. Because he's the type of player you have to keep out as a coach, because he's never going to say, I can't play.
Okay, here's my thing. Does Bob Boughner think the Sharks still have a chance at the playoffs?
Obviously,
does Bob Boughner think he still has a shot at the playoffs?
From the moves tonight and from the way in which he's deploying his skaters, it says yes, he thinks that they still have a chance.
Okay, well, I'll say this. The Sharks have 14 games left. And sorry, I'm reading off my phone. So that's 28 possible points if they went on a run, which, remember, they're one good run away from getting back into this thing. 28 points plus 66 is 94. Okay. 94 points. So that means their tragic number is at 13. 13 points. That means basically 6 losses. In their last 15 games. Why are you putting out Mario Ferraro if he's not 100%? Why did you rush him from a broken bone? He had to have surgery on it 5 weeks ago to play in the game, to play in these games.
Now, mind you, a fracture and the break, they're always going to be of different severities. We didn't know the severity. I mean, it was not like it was a Clayton Keller-esque type injury, but still, a broken bone is a broken bone, like you said.
But Landy, who was going before he got injured? Who was the league leader in block shots?
Mario Ferraro.
So if he takes a slapper, let's see, who are we playing next on Tuesday? Edmonton.
Yep.
So what if Leon Draisaitl takes a one-timer from the slot, and Ferraro gets blocked, and for some reason his equipment fails on him
and shatters his leg again in the same spot?
Right. I mean,
it's inept coaching decisions. That this one was an inept move, and there's no excuses for the way in which he's deploying his blue line, other than the fact that he might be trying to play for his job, or he might, be coaching for his job at this point. Maybe that's what he's feeling, some kind of internal pressure.
I mean, that's the case, and I get it, because I know he's had a rough go with it, even beforehand with the Panthers. But my whole point is why are you putting out Mario Ferraro? I know that he makes your team that much better, even not at 100%. But let's face reality, people. Unless this team goes 13-1 and then gets a hell of a lot of help, they're not making it. This team is not going to make it for the first time. They're not going to be going to the playoffs in 3 straight years. I mean, and I get there are expectations to improve, but at the same time, you can't tell me that putting Ferraro out there, and at the same time, LeBank's been like waiting to get medical clearance, and now all of a sudden today, oh, we might just put him on the shelf for the season. Okay, so you wasted that space that you could have used on LTIR, which you could have used to broker deals and stuff. You waste on that. I mean,
with
come
the
on.
broker deals, and I will give the Sharks the benefit out of the doubt on that one, because I think at this point you've got you only had one or two broker deals happen at that trade deadline.
Oh, sure.
So
sure.
I won't sit here and put the gun to the Sharks front office on missing some opportunities to collect assets there, because I think that they did have some trades in place that just got blown up last second. That being said, I understand the sentiment. Why are these health decisions and roster management decisions being made, and who's making those decisions? It sounds like, to me, it looks like Bob is having a lot of the say in which, okay, how am I going to deploy players X, Y, and Z? Who's going to be available to me and who's not? And I don't know. Again, scratching Ryan Merkley for an 80% Mario Ferraro really leaves a sour taste in my mouth.
And you leave out Nicholas Milosh with Vlasic, or you move him around and you put him with Carlson. I think you're playing around with fire, and it's just not good. I mean, I get you're trying out people, and you don't have a whole lot of people to touch and play. But I think you've put out a roster that you think is healthy enough to play a good chunk of pucks. And granted, Ferraro played fairly decent tonight, but like I said, if you're risking that and he's limping and he's hurting, I mean, well, the guy is a great locker room guy. I know there's a fight over if you're going to get rid of Couture, having the C that Ferraro's one of the guys there. Sure. I mean, he's one of those guys, and he's going to be one of those leaders, whether he has an A or not on his sweater, or a C for that matter. I just there are some of these moves that are head scratchers, and I just hope that once there is an E attached to the name in the standings, the hair, it'd be like you having your bun. You pull it out and you let the hair flow out, and then just, let's see what you got. Because how would you feel if you're Ryan Merkley and you get move? It's like, oh, sorry, I know you see Mario Ferraro, limping off the ice, but
well, I mean, I want to put it to you this way. What does Nicholas Milosh and Magna, Jason Magna, Jacob, excuse me, what positives do they add over Ryan Merkley at this point?
He's got to be looking at
Magna,
defensively.
But Magna and Milosh are both defensive specialist guys. Right?
Yeah.
So wouldn't it make sense to pair Burns with a Magna or a Milosh, have Pickles with Ferraro, and then have Vlasic and have Ryan together?
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, Vlasic was, giving some praise to Merkley, making things happen with him like that. But, either Milosh or Magna with the EK. Do you reunite Ferraro and Burns? I mean, if it worked all right, I say why not?
Or Ferraro with EK.
Or vice versa. Either way.
Yeah, because I think Magna and Burns seem to have some good chemistry going right now. So, maybe you don't want to break that up, but, a guy who's already had, his normal stay-at-home person, Middleton, had already been traded away. So, Erik Karlsson is already having to adjust to a new to a new pair. So why wouldn't you just keep one pair, keep, two out of your three pairs stabilized?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you like to have that. I know we don't do the wraparound anymore, but I do have to say something. While we're having this conversation about getting the youth players in here in San Jose, how effed up are the Philadelphia Flyers? Did you see what happened today?
No, I have not. Fill us in.
Oh, dude. So Keith Yandles has the NHL record for 989 consecutive games. Flyers aren't making the playoffs, and they told Keith Yandle, "You're getting scratched today. We need to take a look at the kids." 989 games. You're 11 away from letting him have 1,000 straight. Meanwhile, Phil Kessel's breathing down your back. Read the room. Read the room. You go on social media, the Flyers are getting torched. Now granted, did Keith Yandle do the same thing Patrick Marleau did, and has probably stretched out his career because of a games played streak? Sure, but he deserves some kudos on that matter.
Yeah, I agree, but I also think that Keith Yandle was hiding a little bit behind that games played streak. I don't think Keith Yandle has played, to his ability in the last couple of years. I think one, he's getting older, yeah, but two, I also think that he's gotten complacent with the streak and feeling like, okay, whoever coach is going to coach me is going to have to play me in order to honor this streak. And I think he was kind of riding on that a little bit, because this isn't the first time the Flyers had flirted with not dressing him this season. So I don't have as much sympathy for him, but I tend to look at it as, Bob Boughner, what are you doing? Why are, you've got to figure out what you've got in these kids for next season. You've got to figure out if you have any pieces that can help move this team in the right direction for next season.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, Landy. Sorry to cut you off there, but I mean, you need to know what you have going into next season, and some of the things that you currently have don't go together. It's almost like if you had like car parts for a Tesla and you're trying to put it into a Toyota RAV4.
Yeah. And the other thing too, I felt really
you try to do whatever you can do to piece together a decent car for the race.
I mean, tonight you look at a kid like Jonathan Dahlen, right? He's just getting back from injuries, was absent for 5 games. And what's he do? He messes with him up and down the lineup. It's like, look, the kid is not even got his timing back, and you're already slagging him for his effort. I mean, let the kid settle down for a game before you start moving him up and down. And that's kind of, we're seeing, like, it feels like we're seeing Peter DeBoer 2.0 at this point.
Well, yeah. I mean, let's be honest, though. He was a part of PDB's system.
And I think that's part of the problem.
Yeah. Now, does he give the Sharks the best chance to win? Sure. What pieces does he have? Does he give the pieces the best chance to win? Yeah. But the tough part is that he's trying to find the right mix. And right now, the best mix is Hurdle, Meyer, Barabanov, and then, we go Charlie Brown Christmas tree and then move our hands all over the place and hope to find something in the leftover blender that PDB left before he went to Vegas.
Yeah.
It's frustrating to see, because this team can look good. We saw it early on in the season, and it's just frustrating to see them get off. I want to say, yeah, they got off to a good start. Thank you for the 25% off at Sharks Pro Shop. # no free ads. But then, 4 goals after that. And I think Bob said 2 of them were bad. the fourth goal was unacceptable with 0.3 seconds left.
That's a
You know.
defensive mistake, though. I put that's again.
Oh yeah.
When we had talked about it in the chat, and in the breakdown, I think you could make a real strong argument. 2 of those goals were on the goaltender, but the other 2 were complete and utter brain farts in front of the net.
So what we're gonna say is that we're gonna have Kakinen, play all the road games, and then we'll have Reimer play all the home games. Because shoot, the guy put up 75 saves in his first 2 starts in San Jose. Like, oh, you feel for the guy. He couldn't get it done.
Well, but here's the thing, though. The Sharks defense has been asking the Sharks goaltenders to bail them out the entire year. I think we've seen markedly improved goaltending, hence why we're seeing some better stats. But I think it's kind of smoke and mirrors. I think still I have issue with the way that this team the way that this team's defensemen play defense and the system in which they operate, because we're continuing to see these brain farts, and when you don't have one of these offensive defensemen playing to their elite talent, the whole system falls apart. There's not a safety blanket of let's just dump and chase and go down to simple meat and potatoes. It's always, okay, get it to Brent Burns, let him wrist it in, or get it to EK65, let him trot it in. There's no creativity from the back end. It seems like they're always deferring to the lead offensive defenseman within the pair. And again, I just now look at it as, is it time to look for a new coach that can win with a new set of players coming in, a refreshed, or at least a markedly younger roster than what Bugner's had before.
Okay, so I kind of see the devil's advocate in this one. I think there is, like, Bob gets one more chance with the roster next season, because let's be honest here, you're going to definitely have a lot more youngsters on this team. I think I don't think you can hold back William Eklund. You're going to have the likes of Robbins, Bordelot, you would think, among others, to have at your disposal. Yeah, they got to play 2-way hockey, but at the same time, these kids need to shine bright, and they want to show off their skills, and these kids have some amazing skill sets. But they need to be defensively sound, but you also need to have the speed, and you have the skill. Let's be honest here. There have been a lot of injuries put together. Throw in COVID among that this season. This team has gone through a lot early on, and it's just like right before the All-Star break, it just kind of started falling apart. If they can keep their legs going, get off to good starts, don't have these nightmare starts where Bob's throwing everybody under the bus, and be like, dude, do something for your goaltender. He's bailed you out so many times.
Yeah, but I'd love giving them the benefit of the doubt and giving them a pass on, what has happened. And, there's been a lot of injuries in X, Y, and Z. But all you got to do is look over at LA and go, okay, LA has had a very similar set of circumstances in and around them, and look at how they've responded, and look at how their young kids have come and bubbled up a year early and pushed some major roster decisions that LA didn't think that they would be needing to make, because their kids have come in and impressed, and because the way that team has worked. So for every Sharks apologist, I put up LA and say, okay, yeah, the Sharks got dealt some really crappy cards, but you just look right down 300 miles in Southern California and you look at where LA was last year and where they are this year, and that, to me, that says that San Jose first didn't recalibrate early enough to to their division and what was happening in their division, and two, their players are not as, maybe motivated isn't the right word, but they're definitely not reaching full potential and firing on all cylinders like the Kings seem to be doing now.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I mean, the Kings realized that they had to start rebuilding, and they did it. But they also kept their core together with Kopitar and Doughty, and for that matter, Quick. I mean, they had Jack Campbell, traded him away to get some assets. They had Jake Muzzin, traded him away to get some more assets, among other things. To and then see Quentin Byfield finally get going here because poor guy had an injury to him. LA. Which makes it suck so much.
I know.
LA's already gotten ahead of things here, and great. Oh, God. Yeah. And hell, look at Anaheim. Look at the crazy start they had. It worries you that you're going to go up there. But hey, now in a few years' time, and you hope the Sharks are on board, that's going to be a fun California gauntlet once again for everybody doing that road trip.
Yeah, and you just look at the way in which each of these organizations have approached their retooling, rebuttoning up, and you take a look at the job Rob Blake has done and the asset management that they've done there, and it's paid off in spades for them. For the Sharks, we did talk a little bit about the mismanagement. We did talk about how there's a guy over on wearing Kelly green with the number 16. He's on his second contract with the Dallas Stars, and you look at the guy that directly replaced him. He's not even wearing a Sharks uniform any longer, and that I was telling the cast a little bit early that it wasn't EK65 that prevented Joe Pavs from not re-signing. It was EK9. That was the contract.
No, yeah. I mean, yes, did EK65's contract not help? Yeah, of course not. But at the same time, getting that defensive guy, you needed that. But also, let's be honest here. Evander Kane was brought in to essentially replace Patrick Marleau's numbers. They needed a scoring winger that they can put on the line. And I believe he was with Pavs and Donskoy, if I'm not mistaken, early on.
Mm-hmm.
So they needed a scorer for that. They wanted that dynamite scorer. Kane did that, and then all the stuff, off ice started to, get out of hand.
It was the contract for me though. It was that first contract out of his last deal from Buffalo. They had that playoff run. He was okay in the playoffs, but he wasn't great. And then they signed him to that deal, and I thought, wow, they didn't even walk him to free agency. They didn't even play hardball. They just gave him the deal right off the bat. That really restructured the forward core and really restructured how the forwards were starting to get paid. And yeah, to me, that was the nail in the coffin. Not the EK65 deal.
And I also think they overvalued what they had in the system. I mean, let's be honest. We were all about the hype about Shimolovsky and Chekovich, and it just didn't pair out. Going into that first year without Pavs, and that bit the Sharks in the butt. And you're hoping rather than knowing what you have. So.
Well, that being said, I mean, Joe Pavelski now leads his team back into a playoff spot. They've got 3 games in hand on Vegas, so it's going to be...
Which I don't mind at all.
It is going to be a dogfight, that is for sure. Puck Guy, we are closing in on the hour mark, so let's go ahead and let's get this wrapped up a little bit. Besides kind of the key takeaways from tonight, is there anything else that you wanted to maybe shout out from the tank, or get some good grub in or anything like that? And then what are some storylines that you're looking for in these last 14 games?
For me, it was nice to see a good crowd back at the tank on a Saturday night. I'm not wanting to see Pavs come back and bite you, because it's just, you just know that it's going to start so much stuff with people fighting over it. There's some potential there, but I think there's even some more potential that we're waiting in, that we're just like oozing over, like every highlight video we get, whether it's Daniil Gushin with Niagara, whether it's Tristan Robbins in Saskatoon. Shout out Drew Remenda, who my mom wants the Sharks to have his next head coach. Gonna happen, Mom. Sorry.
Yeah. I think that first tenure, not as head coach but as an assistant, kind of left a sour mouth in the organization. A sour taste in the org's mouth.
As AJ would say, just a scotch, maybe. Michigan with Bordelot. I mean, I'm looking forward to all of that coming together. I mean, I can't wait to see what these kids can do, and that's where I think you give everybody a shot. You see a chance and see what they can do, and if not, hey, we'll head down to, what is it called? Tech CU Arena at Sharks Ice at San Jose. Can I buy a vowel? I mean, the potential's there. We just have to go through the rough part. As Mike Babcock said when he was named head coach of Maple Leafs, there's going to be pain, and there's going to be much pain, and we just have to get through this, and that's what we got to do right now. So as for the tank, the chicken tenders, $14.50.
Oof.
All right. The sauces, not bad. I mean, it's good. I just wish there were more. But overall, nice atmosphere tonight. I can't wait to go back on apparently Tuesday. So back to you, Landy.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, again, got to play spoiler. You got to figure out what is going on with the farm system and what that farm system is going to be percolating for next season. Again, I want to see some more consistency in the defensive zone. I want to see them start to maybe change up patterns and start to change up plays and inject some more creativity into this offense, because they scored 4 tonight, but they couldn't keep it out defensively. And then, of course, when they keep it defensively locked in, they can't score at all. So let's see if maybe we can have a balanced attack. Would that be kill anybody?
That'd be nice. That's that goes to the argument 3 years ago when you lost Nyquist. I'm not even going to say Donskoy because he was on such a long schneid. There's that. But of course, Pavelski. And then if you add in Kane, you lose all that goal scoring from the final years that they're there. You're going to be hurting, and you're banking on a lot of things to happen. Some guys that are on this team just need to be better.
Yeah.
I know it kind of sounds simple and it sounds cliche, but guys need to be better. They can't be average. I know Bob called out, I forget if it was
Bob called out Dahlin tonight. I think,
and Balsers, was it?
I think Balsers was a guy that was also on the receiving end of a tongue lashing.
But you look at what Gregor did tonight.
Gregor had a better game for sure.
Yeah.
I think. Look, Balsers is an interesting kind of character, because I think there are some games he comes really hard to play, and I think that there are other games that, he can be pushed off the puck a little easy. So, Again, but that's a growth thing. That's just going to come with reps, and again, it's going to come with consistent playing time. I mean, how much are you really going to get done with 9 minutes and 30 seconds of ice time tonight for Jonathan Dahlin? Again with Balsers, 11 minutes and 42 seconds. That John Leonard, 10 minutes and 46 seconds. You got to give these young guys a little bit more leash. You got to see what they can do. You got to build up the confidence and really nurture these players. And that's what I want to see in these last 14 games, if anything, is just Bob be a little bit more understanding of where he's at in the standings, what the objective needs to be for the rest of the season, developing players instead of jockeying for this imaginary third wild card position that they're trying to get into. And and finally pull the Band-Aid on. It's all the vets. It's all vets all the time, and really needs to change that philosophy, because this team is dying playing its vets over and over and over the amount of time that they really should be playing.
Yeah. If I'm looking at it correctly, because of the loss, the Sharks now sit in the number 10 spot and just having fun with the Tankathon. Of course. Of course. Chicago and Vegas would win the draft lottery on the one time I do Tankathon. And because Vegas is so down low, they only move up 10 spots to number 6. That means the Sharks drop down a spot. So
okay, AJ pulling up this, and we'll why don't we talk about this and then we kind of end it up. Maybe the problem is that Dahlin and Balsons aren't as good as you think. Maybe they're third liners and you're expecting second line talent. Well, AJ, I'll just tell you this. I'd love to see them just stick on the third line. They're not even getting a lot of looks on the third line, let alone even be, besides the 3 or 4 shifts that Dahlin got on the second line tonight before he was promptly ejected off of that. So, look, I can't even tell you what kind of talent they are because they're not even giving me a good showcase of what these guys can do. And that's the problem.
And AJ, you bring up that point, and it's the same point that I think a lot of people had about, like I said, Chekovich and Shemolevsky a couple of years ago. It's like we were expecting more because we've been told they are so good, they're great, and everything. And they aren't. And, you got to make a decision on Dahlin, after being so touted. Does he really want to stay here, or does he want to go back to Sweden or find someplace else?
Well, I think you look at the beginning of his season and you go, there's some talent there. I think that there's some talent there, and I think that there's definitely a player there. But he also needs to be in a system and needs to be with a coach that's going to play him in the right spots. Right now, that's not happening.
Right.
He's got to show it, of course. He's got to bring the effort, yes.
You got to bring, if you're playing 9 minutes, you got to bring the 9 minutes. You got to bring it no matter what. So
yeah, but you're limiting, you're limiting that kid to 9 minutes to show what he's got. And I don't think that that's fair. And I don't think that that's fair to the player. I don't think it's fair to the organization because you really don't get to see what exactly the player is. And you're just going to be setting yourself up for more of the same burnout next year. We got to roll. If we can't trust these kids, we got to just burn out our vets even more. And that needs to change. That needs to change. Just needs to change.
They need to be better. Dahlin, if you want to be a second line center, you want to be this scoring guy that you put at the numbers overseas last year, you need to bring it. Because if you're going to have Matt Nieto on your top 6, that tells you something about your depth.
Yeah. Depth problem and not knowing what kind of depth you have. I think that's 2 compounding issues. So,
absolutely.
Okay, Eric. Well, that being said, I think it's time to kind of end this show up. It was great to have you jump on board. Thank you, everybody, for jumping in again after the stream had a hiccup. We appreciate everybody coming out. In case you missed us and you want to catch us again, check us out across all of these podcasting platforms, that being the Apple Podcast, Google Play Store, the YouTube Rewind. We've got the SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, and iHeartRadio all set up for you. So check out Teal Town USA across those platforms. And then, of course, always check out tealtownusa.com. Eric, where can the people find you and your final thoughts?
The people will find me probably in bed in about 15 minutes, but you can find me as always at PuckGuy14 on the Twitter and the Instagram. Appreciate everyone joining us tonight, and those who said hi to me at the tank. It was great to see you all. Come, always say hi. I always appreciate everybody coming together, and yeah, looking forward to hopefully talking about a win next time. God, but thanks for holding it down, bud.
What's that? Yeah, well, as far as where you can find me, you can use my first name, that's Erik, my last name, Landi, across all of the social media garbage platforms. And as far as my final thoughts go, official warm-up puck, shiny. Those are my final thoughts. So everybody, keep it real, keep it teal, keep it real teal. Thank you, and we will see you after the game against Edmonton. Have a good one.
See ya.